Hey everyone, welcome. I'm your host, Eric. Let's just jump right in with a question for you. Think back, what was the single most important class you ever took in school? Now, I bet you're thinking of something like math, or maybe English, or science, right? We're all conditioned to think that those core academic subjects are what really matters. But what if I told you there's one class that can directly boost your performance in all of those other classes?
Yeah, the answer is probably the last one you'd ever guess. In fact, it's the class that's so often seen as, well, disposable. The one that gets cut first when budgets are tight. I'm talking about gym class. And believe me, this isn't just some wild theory.
Let's look at the actual proof. There's this high school in Naperville, Illinois, that started a revolutionary program they called 0-hour PE. And what that meant was students did intense physical activity before their first academic class of the day. And the results? They were just unbelievable. Their test scores skyrocketed, putting them among the smartest schools in the world. So how on earth is that possible? How does running around a gym make you better at algebra?
Well, the science behind this incredible story is what we're diving into today. It all comes from the book Spark by Dr. John J. Ratey. And this guy knows his stuff. He's a clinical associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School. His book is basically a user's manual for upgrading your own brain, backed by some really cutting-edge neuroscience.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the secret behind that school's amazing success. Then, we'll get into what's been called miracle grow for your brain. After that, we'll uncover your brain's own internal pharmacy. I'll give you a practical exercise plan. And finally, we'll talk about how you can literally build a better brain.
Okay, so let's start with that Naperville miracle. What exactly were these kids doing in PE that was so different? You might be surprised to learn it had nothing to do with what sport they were playing, but everything to do with how they were playing it.
The secret sauce wasn't basketball or soccer. It was intensity. Every single student wore a heart rate monitor, and they had one very specific goal: keep their heart rate in the zone of 80 to 90% of its maximum. That's it. This high-intensity state was the key that unlocked everything. But why? What does that actually do to the brain?
And this brings us to the biggest idea in the entire book. We have to completely redefine why we exercise. For most of us, it's about our bodies, losing weight, building muscle. But Dr. Ratey argues its most profound benefit isn't for your body at all. It's for your brain.
So, the reason that high-intensity workout works is because it unleashes a flood of this incredible protein called BDNF. That stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. If you remember one thing from this explainer, make it BDNF. This stuff is fundamental. It's what tells your brain to grow new neurons and to strengthen the connections between the ones you already have. You know, the very connections that form the basis of all learning.
Dr. Ratey came up with the perfect analogy for it. He calls BDNF miracle grow for the brain. Just think about that. Your brain is a garden of neurons. BDNF is the high-powered fertilizer that makes everything grow stronger, faster, and healthier.
So let's connect the dots. It's a really simple chain of events. You do some intense exercise, your brain releases a surge of BDNF, and this creates the absolute perfect environment for your brain to learn. This is exactly what those students in Naperville were doing. They jack up their BDNF levels and then walk straight into their hardest classes, with their brains literally primed to soak up information like a sponge.
You know, when you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, it makes perfect sense. For pretty much all of human history, we had to be moving to survive. Hunting, running from predators. Our brains evolved to be at their absolute sharpest while our bodies were in motion. Our modern life, sitting at a desk all day, it's a total mismatch for how our brains are actually wired.
Now, BDNF is amazing for long-term brain building, but that's not all. Exercise also works like your brain's own private pharmacy, giving you an immediate chemical boost that changes how you feel and think right here, right now.
The moment you start working out, your brain gets a hit of 3 key neurotransmitters. You've got serotonin, which helps regulate your mood. You get dopamine, which is all about motivation and focus. And you get norepinephrine, which sharpens your attention and alertness. Let's just call them the happy trio.
In fact, Dr. Ratey makes this really powerful comparison. He says that a good workout is basically like taking a small, perfectly balanced, all-natural dose of Prozac and Ritalin. It boosts the exact same chemicals that those drugs target, but with absolutely zero negative side effects. That incredible feeling of clarity and positivity after a good run, that's not just in your head, it's real brain chemistry at work.
And these benefits aren't just a temporary high. Get this, exercise is one of the only things we know of that can trigger something called neurogenesis. That's the actual birth of brand new brain cells, specifically in the hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain. This is the area that tends to shrink as we get older and in diseases like Alzheimer's. So every single time you exercise, you are literally building a bigger, stronger, more age-proof brain.
Okay, so the science is fascinating, right? But the most important question is, what do I do with this information? So let's get really practical. This is about creating a specific exercise plan for whatever your personal goals are.
So think of this chart as your brain-building guide. If you're feeling stressed out, you don't need to kill yourself at the gym. A simple walk will do wonders to calm your system. If you're feeling down, a moderate jog is perfect for boosting that happy trio. Want to improve your focus? Try something that requires complex skill, like dance or martial arts. And here's the big one for learning. Do 20 to 30 minutes of cardio before you sit down to study your work. You'll max out your BDNF levels right when you need them.
And here's one last crucial piece of the puzzle. While aerobic exercise is the king for producing BDNF, you really shouldn't forget about strength training. Lifting weights is fantastic for regulating your insulin and blood sugar, which means your brain gets a steady, stable supply of energy. Really, the perfect brain-boosting routine is a smart mix of both. So, when you put this all together, it leads to this incredibly empowering idea. We tend to think that our intelligence or our mood is just something we're stuck with. But the science shows us that's not true. You really are the architect of your own brain.
So let's just quickly recap the main takeaways. First, you've got to change your mindset. Exercise isn't just a chore for your body, it's essential maintenance for your brain. Second, remember that it's your own internal pharmacy, giving you an instant mood and focus boost, and building your brain for the long haul with BDNF. Third, use that prescription idea to match your workout to your goals. And finally, and this might be the most important part, just start. Consistency is way more important than intensity, especially in the beginning.
So, I want to leave you with this question. Now that you know just how profoundly you can shape your own mind, your own mood, and your own intelligence, are you ready to pick up the tools and get to work? Every single step you take is a direct investment in your own cognitive future.
I really hope this gives you a new perspective on exercise. If you found it valuable, it would mean a lot if you'd help spread the word by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear this.
And as always, if there's a book out there you want us to tackle, just drop it in the comments below. Thanks so much for your time. I'm Eric, and I'll see you in the next one.